How's it going, folks? And welcome to the Biden Boys podcast, where your source for everything Joe Biden, where we're keeping up with the tremendous Joe Menem of our candidate. I'm your host, Patrique McGovern, and here with my co-host, Caleb, OptimalAudio. And shortly we'll be recapping this past week's Bill Maher broadcast. Some really funny stuff out of Bill. And now this is the Living on Borrowed Time podcast. I thought you would react to some of that.
No. I was letting you run with it.
Cut that, motherfucking! God damn it! I thought you would have actually ran with that a little bit.
I was letting you go with it. Definitely big Biden boys over here. Big B's only. Big B's only. No C's. You know what it is.
It's hard to even joke about it. I know, but.
It is. It's you got to do something to keep saying these days, right?
No, but yes, this is the Living on Borrowed Time podcast. I'm Patrick. He's Caleb, and hopefully these will actually be out and when you can hear them, because we have somebody else putting them up on YouTube now. In theory, when you listen to this will be when you hear it. And this week's topic is going to be something we covered in the past, although I don't know if that one ever got put up or not. Because didn't we cover this in the past? You fell off topic? Because didn't we start an episode that we finished early and then we just did that as like a second topic?
Yeah, we did it as like a supplementary thing for like a half hour or something, but it never saw the light of day because the episode that it was attached to never saw the light of day.
Was that the Marshall episode?
I think that was the Nas episode. Was it the Nas episode?
I don't remember. The Nas episode got recorded and put up, though, didn't it? No, the Nas episode was one that got put up.
You're right. The Nas one, I think the Nas one did get up. So maybe it was the one with Marshall, because I guess it was kind of short.
Yeah, because we had two. I don't know. This is really fascinating for people who listen, talking about episodes that people have never heard on a show that people will never hear. It's very, very meta. But no, the topic is basically we're going to discuss rappers who fell off. And I was thinking about this, that there are four types of falling off. You have the basic, you were good, and then you're not good anymore. Then you have, you were good, you weren't good anymore, then you recovered. Like, we'll say like Lupe Fiasco would be a good example of that. Mm-hmm. Then you fell off, you got better, and then you fell off again, which I'm trying to think of a good example of that. Maybe Lil Wayne, that's up for debate. Like, he did get better, then you can debate whether or not the new album was falling off or not. And then you finally have you were never on, but then you fell off. Basically, you were really bad, and then you got significantly worse. I would argue that Fall Out Boy is a good example of this in the not hip-hop realm.
I mean, yeah, it's maybe like a little Panic at the Disco, something along those lines.
And I think Logic is a good example of, because this podcast basically exists for us to shit on J. Cole, Wale, and Logic, like we always do, but with like more structure to it, where it's actually the point, as opposed to just finding an excuse to do it in other sort of discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Logic is a good example because he just went from boring to worse.
Yes, he went from boring to offensively bad.
Exactly. Good way of putting it.
And I guess in the cases of everybody we discuss, we can say whether or not how disappointing it was that they fell off, if at all, and whether or not they can recover. So that's how I kind of figure we would discuss this.
Yeah, I think it just lends itself to talking about a bunch of different like types of fall-offs, like you said, because that's a big trope in hip-hop. I mean, it's such a big trope that like people talk about the sophomore slump all the time and stuff like that. Like, it's almost like a lot of rap fans, and myself included, could be worried sometimes about like an artist that they like, in terms of like, oh, I don't know if this album's going to be any good or not, just because like they haven't had a bad one yet. It's something like that.
And I mean, it's the basis for pretty much every diss song that isn't I fucked your bitch. So you fell off.
Those are really like the two big type of diss songs.
I mean, the greatest diss song of all time, of course, T-Shirt and Buttons by Lil B. How are you gonna sell it? I'm back underground.
Lil B definitely between all of the curses, the hexes that he's put on athletes, NBA players, and like he's had some big influence on the diss song scene.
Yeah, he definitely has. And so, as far as falling off goes, I was gonna say, who do you want to start with? I say we start with like maybe the first person that comes to mind when you think like you fell off or the most disappointing fall off. I'll let you start.
I think, I mean, you brought up somebody earlier. I think Lil Wayne's a great place to start because Lil Wayne is one of my favorite rappers, at his best, obviously. And his career has been nothing short of just all over the place. I mean, anything but conventional. Um, and you could definitely argue that for a period of time, he was at the very least in the conversation for, best rapper in the world. And then, like that run from Carter 1 to Carter 3 is some legendary shit. And then you get, the period post No Ceilings. No Ceilings was '09. And then you get after that, you've got Rebirth. You've got I Am Not a Human Being. Those things came out in the same year. That's a hell of a 1-2 punch. You got Sorry for the Wait, the mixtape. Then you have the Carter 4. Then you have the Dedication 4. I Am Not a Human Being 2 comes out.
Great album.
Then you get Dedication 5. Then you get Sorry for the Wait 2. Then you get the Free Weezy album. And then you end it off with, and that probably ends at the Free Weezy album because then after that, it was picked up. I guess the Free Weezy album was like, it was not great, but it like kind of signified like, okay, maybe he's picking it back up again from the depths of stuff that had come before that. So that's like a 6-year period of bad music.
It was bad, and every project you'd listen to would be like the one you promised. Well, after a while, no. But Dedication 5, I remember, was the promise that it would get better. And it was like 30 tracks long. And it was not good. And there were like 2 or 3 good. Thing about it was, during that period, he would still have 2 or 3 tracks where he would still do what he could normally do. And then, or what he would normally do effortlessly. And then there would be like 27 tracks of struggle. Just like pussy bar after pussy bar after. The man was. He had one thing on his mind at that time, and it was not rapping, and it was.
It was not. You're right, and even I remember, Sorry for the Wait 2 having some hype around it because it had, it was supposedly like it was around the time as all the Cash Money stuff was just coming out, and Wayne was going off about Birdman or whatever, and he addresses it in like one song on the tape, and the rest of the tape is just like you're saying, and then it has Drunken Love on it, the cover.
Oh God, I hate that so much.
Which has got to be one of like the 10 worst.
Hate that even. Oh God, that's so bad. That is. I'm trying to think of a Lil Wayne song I hate more than like. There's got to be.
I mean, it's got to be something on Rebirth maybe, or I'm Not a Human Being too, but I don't know.
Rebirth has some really bad songs, but you can laugh at them. Like Drunken Love causes me like physical pain to listen to.
True. And the thing is that even in all the bad albums, he still would, like you said, release like 1 or 2 heaters, and then the rest was terrible. But like, you would say, I'm Not a Human Being, like the album. I remember the Right Above It song with Drake was everywhere. So it like kept him in the still at like, peak popularity, even though it wasn't Carter 3 when like everything was hit. Like those albums, as bad as they were, still the hits on them still kept like Wayne around and relevant somehow.
Well, then he recovered. Then he had Dedication 6 and Carter 5. People debate on Carter 5. I really like it. I can't say I listened to it that much, but I really like it. I thought it was really good. I thought for how long it was, it had a remarkably good batting average. I thought he's rapping his ass off on Dedication 6. I thought there are very few bad songs on either of those. But then I guess the argument there would be, did he fall off again with Funeral, or is that a, because Funeral is like the first pretty much all new material thing he's put out that isn't a mixtape. That isn't just him over other people's beats.
Right. Well, I would say
like Funeral's not bad in the way that his other shit was bad. Like he's not like rapping badly on it, but some of the choices he makes musically on there are just, I don't know.
Yeah, I just think he needed an editor. Like I think there are tracks on Funeral to me that display the same kind of fire that was on Carter 5. And to your point about Carter 5, I still really like Carter 5. I gave it a high rating. I like it a lot. Like you said, I kind of pick and choose what songs I listen to, but the songs that I don't listen to, it's not because they're not good. It's just like it's a 23-song album. And Let It All Work Out was one of my favorite Lil Wayne songs.
My main problem with it is the way he does like production shit with his voice, which people grew to like a lot of the auto-tune shit he did with his voice. I guess you could argue that he was a little ahead of his time on that. Like he was super obnoxious with the auto-tune very early, and like right when T-Pain was using it, like he was one of the first who really embraced just like being really obnoxious with auto-tune. And so now he's doing a lot of distortion stuff and yelling, and like there's a lot of stuff that reminded me of Triple Extentation on it, and like of course there's that X feature which is horrible, just fucking dog shit.
Right.
But, like a lot of rock, like he's kind of doing like a rock noise sort of influence on stuff, which and sometimes it feels cheap. Like the beats themselves feel cheap, and I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I'm willing to admit that this might be something I'm not getting, but it also might just be that his shit sounds like not good because it's not mastered right, and it was just really put together, and I'm just making excuses for it. But his rapping on it's really good for the most part. Like and the thing is, some of the songs aren't like. There was like one song that I thought had a really annoying beat. The other people, Mamma Mia, I think it was, or that had like some people love that beat. I thought that beat was really fucking annoying.
I haven't listened to it in a while, but I remember liking that song. I remember really liking the first 3 songs off the top.
The first 2 songs are awesome. The second song, I think, has a Manny Fresh beat.
Yeah.
And Mamma Mia has like weird horror trap beat that's not. Yeah, I don't know. Listen to it and tell me what you think. But so I guess I wouldn't say he didn't fall, like he fell off and he came back, and I guess one album is kind of hard to gauge if you fell off just based on one album unless it's like a really, really, really like collab.
Yeah, there are plenty of, I think there are tracks on the album. I mean, I think it's like an okay album, but I feel like there are plenty of tracks on here that show that he didn't fall off, at least rapping wise. I think some of his decision making, he needs an editor. Like if it wasn't 24 songs, it would undoubtedly be better. And I feel like, that's something that a lot of people could say. Like he's still rapping to me on the level that he was in 2018. It's just different because, like you said, it's original material, original beats, and he doesn't have. I don't think he has someone to tell him like, "Hey, Wayne, make this album like, 16 songs, not 24."
I would agree with that. I feel like he's always had a problem with having people around him telling him no to shit. Although when he had Bergman around him, Bergman was just telling him what to do. So that was like kind of different.
True. And who knows how much of this he had, because Lil Wayne is a workaholic. We know that. So who knows how much of these songs he churned out over the course of a year and a half, and he's just like, he probably churned out like 40-something songs that could have been on this album, and he's like, well, I cut it to 24. That's good enough for me. And I could see that being a possibility.
Well, I'm going to take my first pick, and it's going to be Chance the Rapper.
It's a good one. It's a good one, especially because it's pretty universal.
I would say that, and for me, this is somebody I never really enjoyed, but I could at the very least see what people enjoyed about him. And I feel like he's amplified that to a point that it's very overplayed the quirky, Jesus-y aspects of his personality that were kind of subtle before, and or like not really. I never thought they were subtle, but I feel like he kind of played them more subtly in his music, and then he just like beat you over the fucking head with them to the point where now people don't fuck with him like nearly as much as they used to. I'm sure he still has his fan base. And the music itself just got worse and more boring, I feel like, with every project. And I never, again, like, I know it's unpopular. Acid rap does nothing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as far as Chance goes, I love Ultralight Beam, I think, is one of the best verses. Like, I feel like that's incredible. But I can almost put that on Kanye because Kanye has songs with, like, Adam Levine and Chris Brown that I think are some of the best songs ever. So the fact that he was able to coax that out of fucking Chance is not surprising to me. Baby Blue with Action Bronson, I think it's a really clever, really funny verse over a Mark Ronson beat, which is something he doesn't really often do. Chance, not Mark Ronson.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The Lil B tape that he did, but that's mostly like just as part novelty, and it's just like it's Lil B, and it's just funny to hear like. It's almost more for the Lil B aspects than the Chance aspects, but it's like Chance not being as annoying as he normally is. But then, like, and oh yeah, and fucking Surf. I like Surf. Surf's a good album.
Oh yeah, yeah. Surf's cool. Surf's a album.
I like Surf better than Acid Rap. But yeah, I just feel like the fucking Doritos commercials, the annoying ass like what the fuck else was he on? He was on the DJ Khaled album and it was terrible. He was on the Cardi B album and it was terrible. He was on Saturday Night Live and it was terrible. And it's just like, whenever he shows up for something, he just hogs all of the spotlight and does something really just cloying and irritating. And I have a feeling he's trying to transition into being an actor.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I do think that in the 3 years between Coloring Book and The Big Day, you know, I mean, Chance was a big name in the underground after Acid Rap, and he had some songs that got traction. But Coloring Book really put him into a mainstream limelight because it had a lot of, mainstream features and all that. So I think he just kind of like took the success of that and tried to become a brand in a sense. That's my take on it. Is that he really focused on Chance the brand in the couple years after, big Jesus energy, big gospel energy, very quote unquote wholesome, family oriented.
He really doubles the fuck down on the youth group energy. It's nauseating to me. Again, it triggers a gag reflex in me because I had that shit pushed at me in like high school, and
Right.
this really feels like something that in high school would be like, well, we don't listen to rap, but Chance is okay. Like I like he's the rapper. It's okay to like if you're in that sort of environment. Like
yeah, I would definitely that would agree with that case. Like and it's funny because I think retroactively, and I still like acid rap. There are songs on there that I still have fond memories of, but I don't listen to it at all, and I like it a little less now than I did, back in 2015, 16, whenever. So I think it just says something that, like, not that you can't enjoy an artist's music after they turn whack, but it's like making me not want to listen to Chance. Like Coloring Book had some of my favorite songs of 2016 on it, but I haven't listened to it in a while just because I'm not enthusiastic to listen to Chance music, these days. But he was definitely someone that I was really excited about. I know a lot of like rap fans were excited about, and The Big Day. I think I said this in another episode, but The Big Day was so bad that people who probably only vaguely knew that I was into music were hitting me up when it came out. People that like I don't speak to usually And we're like, have you heard this garbage? I
Me
was like,
too. I actually played two of the songs off of it for my wife for her to laugh at. She was just mostly confused. It was Hot Shower and the title track because they were two of the funniest horrible songs I've ever heard.
this guy had fucking the features list is a clusterfuck of people. There was not a single song on this album that wasn't a skit that
Sean
did that.
fucking Mendes.
Yeah,
Sean Mendes, dude.
he didn't have he had fucking no like there was not a song that didn't have a feature. Like it was wild to me. It was wild to me, and it just sounded like I know a review was saying it, but it was like it sounded like a news network's idea of like what a high profile rap album should sound like, something like that, or,
Yeah,
or
put it out late, first of all, like that day, which implied there was some sort of last second editing going on. He put it out with a tweet with the features list, and he said, "No Kanye, sorry, sad face," which makes me think he put it out late, waiting on a Kanye verse, and Kanye's just listening to it, just like shakes his head, like, nah, I agree.
and that says something because Kanye was very, Kanye's usually pretty charitable to artists that he likes,
Ashi 69 album, but would not be part of the big day.
Exactly. Kanye's like, you know what? I'm gonna go be on 6ix9ine's album. He's like, big day. Nah, you're taking it too far. I'm just impressed, Patrick, that you never rated it. Like I would have figured that this would have gotten a.
Or finishing it, I don't know. I've rated
Oh
it.
no, that's fair. That's fair.
I couldn't
Thought.
think of anything funny or necessary to say about it beyond what I said,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't know. It's so obnoxious. It's a chore to listen to. It's funny sometimes just to laugh at, but there's so like I find one track of Chance too much to take, and that is so much Chance at his absolute worst over and over and over and over with
And it's
terrible
like,
features, and it's just like, God damn.
and it's like, how do you make people like very charismatic people like Megan Thee Stallion or Gucci, or, like how do you make those people just like sound run of the mill on your songs? You know what I mean? Like that
Decent.
shouldn't happen.
I'm pretty sure the Gucci verse was the only thing I liked on the fucking album.
That probably wouldn't surprise me. I listened to the album once, and
I don't really remember, but I remember there being, now that you mention it, there was a Gucci verse, and I'm like, well, this isn't horrible.
I mean, every time Chance like sings is also terrible on the album, and it's just like that wasn't
Title
like
track, title track is like that one Kid Cudi shit is just so bad. So
what was the track where he was trying to do like the Feel the Love thing, but it
maybe,
wasn't.
he screams in the middle too. It's like he tried
Yeah,
like,
he,
uh,
he's trying to be like Kanye. I'm telling you. On
he was
that,
trying to do both Kanye and Cudi on that. It was real. He was like trying to be like a one man Kid See Ghosts.
this really was this album is what people that pan Jesus is King like. This is really what they mean. That's my take. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and act like Jesus is King is the greatest thing ever or anything, but I mean it's a hell of a lot better than this.
Better Big Day. It was so much better than Big Day. Like, good God. There's nothing good about the Big Day. Like, I would take the worst moment on Like, I would take Closed. Like, and Closed on Sunday is actually a decent song. And that's probably like the worst moment on Jesus is King, I think. And
Yeah, for sure. I would take Coles on Sunday over anything on here in a heartbeat.
fucking, fucking Doritos commercials, fucking ironic ass. Ugh.
Chance had a fall from grace that I don't think a rapper this decade has had in terms of critical and commercial success and genuinely being well liked by a lot of people, and then throwing your goodwill away like that for no reason. Like it took you 3 years to make this album. Like I don't get it.
To me that this is probably a bad episode for us to put out as our first like public one because if people actually like publicize one because all we're gonna do is attract fans of all these artists. We're gonna like, oh, fuck you, downvote our shit.
Well, all these people have had good music, so it's not like we're saying, oh, their entire discography is bad. There's a reason why it's a fall off,
Yeah,
So
I mean,
we,
yeah,
we prefaced it with that. I don't think a lot of people like the Big Day anyways.
it's true. We're not really like taking a brave stance here.
Oh, this is a universally, like I said, universally panned album. People that are in like really into music or not. So
Didn't Fantano give it a 0 or something? So,
Fantano gave it a 0. Yes.
so yeah, of course, there you go. It's safe to dislike it because the fucking.
Yeah, Fantano gave it a 0. Fantano also gave the Green Day album this year a 0. He's been
really,
dealing out.
really brave there, Melon Lord.
He's been dealing out zeros lately. I mean, I know this is commonplace with our podcast, but do we want to do J. Cole for this one? Do we want to? Because that was my nominee. I think that like.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, I'll ask this question because I mean, of course I want to shit on J. Cole naturally, but do his fans think he like? I know it's a weird question, but like, does his fan base think his new shit is less than his old shit? Like, do they think he's fallen off like in that way? Where it's like, oh, it's not as good. Still, I'll listen to it. Or
I feel like he has two different fan bases, and I feel like the epitome of that, in a funny way, is the Dead End Hip Hop videos on him. Because if you watch FIFO in the beginning, there's FIFO and BZ, I think, were the two that alternated. So in the beginning of J. Cole, like the mixtape days and then like Sideline Story, BZ liked J. Cole. But then from Born Sinner onward, BZ didn't like J. Cole.
okay, well, pretty much where I'm
And
at.
it's funny because FIFO didn't like J. Cole. And then from Forest Hills Drive onward, FIFO liked J. Cole.
Well,
So I feel like those are the two sides of his fan base. You know what I mean? Because I think that J. Cole, up until like ending with Sideline Story, J. Cole's career was one way. Really, maybe ending with Born Sitter, J. Cole's career was one way. And then Forest Hills Drive was such a big album that it brought in a lot of new people to J. Cole.
What was big about Forest Hills Drive? Remind me about that. Like, I remember it being.
I mean, I know it became a meme because it was like platinum with no features, but I remember there being a lot of hype about it, even though it didn't. The only big
Was that Fold and Close?
No, Fold and Close is the one after that. Forest Hills Drive had like no role models on it. It had like Tale of Two Cities on it. It had Wet Dreams on it. I remember it just being, for whatever reason, because I think a lot of people were disappointed with Born. I don't think people like Born Center. Like Born Center is a boring ass album, and people don't like it. And the only thing that people remember about Born Center is the song with Miguel, and maybe the song with Kendrick. But no one, I think it.
There's
Born
a song with on there.
Yeah, there was a song with Kendrick on there.
I reviewed that, and I don't even remember that. I remember Let Nas Down. I remember that because, like, first of all, that's like the most soup ass fucking concept for a song about like it's like whining and crying that you let another rapper down. like,
No,
like,
it's
I don't know. It's just very like grovel, like. And like that line about like, I mean, the thing about it is the beat is amazing and whatever, and that's like Nas took the song and made it into a really good song when he did the remix. But like his like "Long Live Your Idols, May They Never Be Your Rivals," like you're scared of, like you're sad that you let down your idol, and then you're afraid of them ever being your rival. I don't know. It just feels like really anti hip hop and really unappealing, and just like you're like a wuss.
No, I agree. I think Miguel and Kendrick and Nas stole J. Cole's album, and Nas wasn't even on the album, but you know what I mean. Like it's just
No one will ever think. Have you ever heard the remix? You never think of the album version of the song.
Exactly. It doesn't even cross my mind. And
Born Sinner is one of the most embarrassing songs, like rap songs ever. If you ever listen to that song, like in a car with people who don't listen to rap, I think, Like the whole line about like where the homophobic line, or like that's a little line.
Oh yeah. Oh, you told me that story one time because you were the day it came out, you got Yeezus and somebody else got this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Yeezus' profile, Yeezus' profile in the mainstream, because I mean a lot of music nerds liked it from the start, but like in the mainstream, Yeezus' profile has gone up over time, like a lot. We've seen that, but Born Sinner's profile has gone down, I think, over time because people just talk about Forest Hills Drive or like Cole's mixtapes or even like KOD. People don't talk about fucking Born Sinner.
Trash. KOD is horrible. KOD is like boring and preachy and
Right. Well,
it's just
yeah, and that's a good point because I think like I said, the first half of J. Cole's career is an interesting study because it was like, like the warm up and Friday Night Lights and stuff like that. Like I think those are still good. I would never listen to them.
really solid mix. Like the thing was, it's funny. I was writing reviews while I was waiting to do this episode, and I was going through the 2010s like top hip hop list stuff I hadn't rated. And I came upon Saigon's album, I guess. I was thinking, oh, good like mixtape rappers, and J. Cole was like that. He was like a good turn of the decade mixtape rapper for the first
Right.
half of the year, and then he became like this like boring ass like relationship pop rapper for the second half.
And that's the thing. I feel like
The
if
person,
if Born Sinner signifies like the beginning of the second half of his career, the only album that to me really has any highlights on it would be Forest Hills Drive. Like I see what people like in it. I don't dislike it or anything. I just don't find it compelling for an hour of its runtime. But I think there are songs in it that are like, fine. But I think J. Cole's biggest problem is like, he's not as meme worthy as like Drake. He's not as consistent as like a Future. Like people who are on his level. He's not even on the same planet as Kendrick. So he's kind of just like, he's just kind of there to me. And then, like you said, after Forest Hills Drive, like the For Your Eyes Only, super corny, KOD, preachy, yeah. KOD was a huge album. People in the mainstream love that shit.
really.
I mean, I think so. I mean, based on what I follow.
Playing out a car. I heard a few songs playing out, like the trap quote unquote songs playing out of cars, actually, like ATM or whatever that was, which those were some of the more listenable songs on the album, I guess. Like it was mainly the Kill Edward stuff, which was like embarrassing, and the
Oh
last
God.
about like
Yeah.
rappers inflating their downloads and like
Yeah, the,
really
the only the only songs I remember liking on it were ATM and Brackets, and the rest of it I was like, whatever. Like I just don't like it.
And you had like there were these like fucking story songs, which were just like sob stories about addiction and stuff that were just like technically rapped fine, I guess, but it's just like I don't want to hear this shit. I don't want to hear like a concept album about like you're not subtle. Like first of all, To Pimp a Butterfly is not a subtle album. Like when that came out and people were like, "Oh, there's so many concepts at work here that you need to unpack," and it's like not real. Like I mean, like yes, there is a lot, but it's not like you have to unpack it so much. Like it's pretty clearly spelled out for you.
Yeah. No,
J. Cole looks subtle. Like J. Cole spoon feeds you shit. And he does it in a very boring sort of way. Like if you listen to KOD, he barely varies up his flow. It's really dull. Like he
no, I think it's funny because I know a lot of people were saying this on the release of the page, but I think you said it too. Like I think J. Cole was like sort of trying to make like his damn, but then there was stuff on it that was like great value to Pimp a Butterfly on it.
that really like because I feel like I don't know.
It's like the high concept of To Pimp a Butterfly. Great value, high concept with great value, damn instrumentals.
That is true. Yeah, yeah. Because it's hard for me to remember a lot about the instrumentals because they're just fucking boring too. Like that's the thing is like he used to be a producer who could occasionally like he did High Power and like the beat for Let Nas Down actually is like that. Oh wait, was that him or was that No ID?
I think that was No ID, but he did do High Power.
I found, yeah.
And High Power is a classic beat. High Power is great.
And I
So
think he did two or three other really good beats around that time period. Like there,
yeah, he
there was a period where people would come to J. Cole to actually get like a beat and not just a feature. So I think that time is long since gone. Like I think he's almost on like an Eminem status where it's just like, no, why would you ever go to him for? Like, can you imagine somebody like just going to Eminem for a beat?
I mean, he did almost every beat on KOD. So I wonder if do you think that J. Cole should just go over other people's beats? Like, do you think because J. Cole obviously is massive artist, one of the biggest artists in the world. He can go out and find any like producer that's hot right now and be like, hey, like give me a beat. Like I'd love to work with you. And I'm sure they would do that. And at minimum, the albums would be better because the beats would be distinct because they're coming from the producers that he's maybe not trying to emulate, but indirectly emulating.
I mean, it would probably be more interesting than KOD, but I still like A Lot is a great, great song, but I can't stand J. Cole on it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what DJ Dahi who did that.
I
21
think.
A Lot.
Oh yeah. The Savage song.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think so. You know, it's funny. I never looked at who did that beat. I'm looking at it right now. It was DJ Dahi. Yeah, you're right.
So that's an example of somebody who's much better than him at producing this sort of shit, and in general. And he people did love that verse. I thought that verse was horrible and kind of ruins the song, which is otherwise like pretty much a perfect song. It would be like my favorite 21 Savage song if it wasn't for that.
Hmm.
But yeah, so do we think that Cole could ever actually put out a great album? I guess 'cause that was the thing we like because it wasn't really worth asking this question with Wayne because we didn't think Wayne fell off, but and Chance I don't think is going to be able to come back from. I think he has the talent to make a great album, but he probably never will because I feel like
No, I
I
think
to be like a fucking entertainer guy. Like I can see Chance having a talk show. I can
I
see like
like in the vein of like The View.
I can see him on The View. I can see Chance being the first permanent male member on The View.
Yeah, yeah, I could see it. Well, you know what's interesting about J. Cole, and I think you have to talk about this when you talk about J. Cole, is that he does better almost like he did better almost organizing like the label compilation from last year because like the Dreamville comp wasn't great, but it has some real heaters on there, and
Well,
it
people are
just
actually
seems.
excited about Earth Gang and JID. Is it JID or JID? How should I say that? Like,
I always said Jid personally. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he goes as Jid because I've seen interviews of him and people have
I'm not as big a fan of his as other people, but I can admit that he's definitely got a lot of momentum behind him. And
right.
DiCaprio 2 was a pretty good. DiCaprio 2 was a good tape. I just feel like he needs to sound a little more distinct from Kendrick.
That's
Because
fair. That's
those are
fair.
my.
I mean, I think that like DiCaprio, like I liked the Never story, and I think DiCaprio too was like a step up from the Never story. Like I really like that tape. But I hear obviously you can hear the Kendrick, but to me, I don't think it necessarily bothers me as much as it might get on like your nerves because that I still really like him, and I think that his like rapping patterns and stuff like that are super crazy. If anything, I would hope he doesn't go down the lane of like I have the ability to rap really fast and all these different flows, so I'm just gonna do that and not make songs. I don't think he will, but there's a part of me that wonders that he could do that, and then it could be like a grading album.
Well, he
But yeah,
definitely has way more upside than J. Cole at this point,
yeah.
artistic. But I'll say
And
that much.
and like Earthgang are good. I mean, they definitely bite Outcast, but they're good.
Yeah, they
Um,
were better. That I don't know. I couldn't get through that label compilation. It was long.
oh, it was definitely too long, but I just picked and choose songs that I liked, and it's funny because the last track, which had Saba on it, I think it had Smino too, but J Cole's verse on that was really good, and I was like, it was like personal and stuff. I'm like, J. Cole, was this supposed to be like an album song that he just threw at the end of his label comp? Because it's weirdly placed. It comes after like a couple of weak songs in a row. Like there's a section in the middle where you've got like the nudie song is good. The Costa Rica track is good with all those features on it. There's a song with Maxo Cream that's good. Down Bad is good with Jid, Earth Gang, and Nudie. And then Under the Sun, which is the opening track. So there's some songs I really like on there. Like Under the Sun has the best DaBaby verse. J. Cole sounds perfectly fine on it too. Like I don't know. I feel like J. Cole, the beats on this album, the up tempo beats, like he sounded better on. So I don't know. I don't know where J. Cole can go to make a great album. To answer your question, I think he needs to rap on other beats that aren't his own.
That's a thought. Yeah. I could see that being people say he needs to do the collaboration album with Kendrick. That's never going to happen. It won't do Kendrick any favors, and that would just encourage Kendrick to rap over J. Cole beats, which is not what I want to hear, nor do I think it's what Kendrick wants to do. So
I find it hard to believe that J. Cole, even his fans, wouldn't think that he would get washed at least 75% of the time on that collab album. Like, I remember the tracks they released way back when, like 5 years ago at this point. And J. Cole was rapping over All Right, and you're like, okay, J. Cole, like this sounds cool. Like, I mean, obviously you're vibing to it because the beat from All Right is so good. You know, and you're like, okay, J. Cole sounds good over this. And then Kendrick comes in over Tale of Two Cities, and it's just spazzing and changing up his flow and doing all these weird voice inflections over it. And you're like, okay, J. Cole's going to get upstage big time.
Yeah, it would not be, and Kendrick would gain nothing from it either. It would just be like, I don't know, it would just prove him a great rapper. They don't need any more proof of that. Like, and the mainstream people wouldn't really care. Like, I don't think there's like a big hit for Kendrick, and there's no artistic challenge, and there's no big hit in it for him. So I don't think he would do it at this point.
No, I definitely agree.
Especially if ambitious to make a rock album, which is apparently what it is, and I believe it after the whole YouTube sample / feature on the last one. So
yeah, and he's definitely, Kendrick's definitely well thought out with anything that he does. So hopefully,
the only person on TD who is.
Seriously, I mean, you could have said the same thing about Schoolboy, but then he released his last album, so. Obviously, we know Ab-Soul is here. Ab-Soul has one good album to his name, so yeah.
I have no faith in Ab-Soul ever putting out anything quality for the course of a whole project. But
no.
Occasionally, he'll put out a great verse, and you'll be like, "I wish you could do this for a whole album again." But
the only person on TDE that I have any faith in these days, besides Kendrick, is Isaiah. But who knows when? I mean, he dropped a single a few weeks ago that was really good. I hope he'll drop an album. But
I thought that was an old song.
I mean, people are saying it's a Lucy, so it probably is. Oh,
that recent song that was from like 8 years ago.
Oh, well, wouldn't surprise me. I guess I didn't pay attention to it when it came out.
Oh, that's what I heard. I might be wrong, but
people on the release, in the comment box were saying that it was a Lucy, but I'm not. I don't know. I just
Well, then try your hopes there. You sound really disappointed.
I am disappointed because I love Sun's Tirade so much. I am disappointed.
I heard a really good Slim K version of that, so I like that album a lot more now.
Oh, cool! I didn't even know your thoughts on it. I know that a lot of people.
I didn't love it. I like it a lot more.
No, that's cool.
I'm thinking of Sylvia. I always like Sun's Tirade. I'm thinking of Sylvia demo because I didn't really like Sylvia.
Oh, Sylvia. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I knew that you were like iffy on Sylvia demo. I came around hard on Sylvia demo. Not that I was like, when it came out, I was like, this is cool. But after Sun's Tirade, I went back and I was like, okay, I was off. Like, this is really good. But I think Sylvia demo is even more, I don't know if it's even more low key than Sun's Tirade, but it's definitely not like a Bump in the Whip album. So it takes a minute.
It is a more low key album. It's more vibey. It's more atmospheric. But I like that about it, and that came out when I was listening to the Shop Not Slop version. I would say just like the vocals really stood out a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I was approaching it less as like a traditional rap album that way. So because it's not really like that. All right, just so we don't spend forever on J. Cole because that's a really boring topic to spend forever on. My pick is just as predictable as J. Cole. It's gonna be Wale, who because he fell off. Yet he refuses to go the fuck away. He keeps hanging around like a fucking 35-year-old who keeps hanging around a high school. How do you do fellow kids in fucking albums on West Side Gun and Smoke DZA in like the past month? Like, it's just like, why are you here? And he was horrible on that West Side Gun album. He was the only bad thing on Pray for Paris.
So, and that's a lot because Pray for Paris is so good, and he was the only bad thing. The one thing I can say is on Pray for Paris, at least that track, it
great otherwise.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like Wale technically, based on the content of the song or whatever, fit on the song, but he himself was bad. So it doesn't
fit on the song, but you know what? I was listening to that song. I was like, you know who should be on the song is Action Bronson.
Interesting. Yeah, he Action Bronson would be funny, and it would be like, he would be tongue in cheek about it and wouldn't take himself so seriously.
I mean, Wale was trying to make jokes. Like, he tries to, like, sound like West Side sometimes, and then he tries to sound like Kanye sometimes, and then he tries to, like, I don't know, man. He, like, switches his flow, like, 5 times, and he's just so annoying on pretty much, and he also seems to have gotten that, like, appreciation out of rappers when he gets on their tracks that, like, Eminem gets, where we'll get to Eminem, I suppose, where he gets to go for as long as he wants. Which is just why.
Yeah,
he's not like in status like Black Thought, where it's like, oh, it's an honor to get bars from you, or Andre 3000, where it's like just go as long as you want. Like no one wants more than 16 bars from Wale. We don't even really want 16. Like
right, and Wale hasn't put out a project worth listening to in what 10 years. Like I don't understand what the disconnect is. I mean, I guess he's super well liked in the industry and all that, but I never thought that any of his projects in the 2010s were worth hearing. I mean, because a lot of them are just so dreadfully dull to me. And he, as a rapper, I don't know. Even when the stuff that came out that you know, like the mixtape About Nothing or whatever, which is not a bad mixtape or anything, but I just don't. I have no need to listen to him ever. To me, he's always been dull. And
see, I thought you would have liked old Wale more because he used to make a lot of really clever sports references.
He does make some cool sports references. He's a big basketball head, so that's definitely like, you know, that's a plus. But I don't know. I mean, like the mixtape About Nothing was like fine. I didn't dislike it or anything. Like
I loved it at the time. I was all about him through to Attention Deficit, which I liked, and a lot of people didn't. And I don't really come back to it. And looking at it now, it definitely portends like where his career was going, because about half of it is like boring ass relationship R&B songs, which he's doing better there than he would elsewhere. And then every album is worse and worse. Like he just signed when he signed with MMG, it's like he's either doing like really fake tough trap shit or much more often, just like really soft relationship. Like, I mean, Diced Pineapples.
Yes.
Diced Pineapples. That's all I have to say.
Diced Pineapples.
Up by the fucking Diced Pineapples poem.
Diced Pineapples to this day still one of the funniest things that I've heard, and creepiest things that I've heard.
That's the wife and I renew our wedding vows. I'm going to have her recite the poem from Diced Pineapple.
Well, I just want to say that when we went over it one time in the Freddie Gibbs episode, the best part of the poem to me is when he says, "Let me redefine foreplay, so you need 5." I'm just like, all right, well.
I'm gonna go look up the fucking Diced Pineapples lyrics right now.
It's like, dude, why? What are you doing? Like he's saying, oh my god, He said, I'm trying to see how deep you are, and I'm not talking about conversation.
The better my effort, the wetter her treasure.
So terrible.
Well, if you stop that shaking, no more talking, baby. No more talking, baby. That's so rapey. This out of context, that is so rapey.
Why can't she talk?
I wonder if there are rap. I want to hear the rap. I want to see the rap G's annotations for this.
He said, oh my god, this is so fucking horrible. The highest form of admiration, and I ain't no connoisseur, but I'm sure you will admire my taste. Who told him to write this shit? Who thought it was good? Ross read it and was like, sure, man, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so we need a genius to unpack this for us. I ain't no connoisseur, but I'm kind of sure you will admire my taste. Connoisseurs are, so to speak, professional tasters. Wale may not be a professional taster, but he is sure that she will like his taste in cars, clothes, jewelry, fine dining, etc. Could also refer to the fact that she would love it when Wale eats her. The sexual pun here is pretty obvious. Wale's taste, i.e. the taste of his semen. I can see why Makami hates Rap Genius.
Yo, they had staff writers at Rap Genius break that one down ASAP. You need a certain amount of you need a certain IQ to understand.
Yeah, you need a high level IQ to unpack Wale's Diced Pineapple.
Oh, okay. What we need to do is just picture Patrick reading that, and you can see his brain opening up and just many galaxies inside his brain.
Oh, I forgot. There's also a Wale verse on the song.
Yes, there is.
Fuck making pussy talk. I like to make it sing a tune.
Oh god, that is Lil Wayne level bad. Like around that time of fucking sex raps.
Oh my god.
God. He said, He's like, I'm trying to eat. We don't need a spoon.
No, we don't need a spoon.
Oh my god.
Wow, yeah, Diced Pineapples, man.
Diced Pineapples really just a waste of a good beat.
Yeah, and like Wale's career after that, like fucking the Seinfeld album was just sad to me because it was just like trying to recapture your past glory. And I actually like Mixtape About Nothing way more than you. Again, like that was one of my favorite albums, one of my favorite projects that year. But I don't think I like that. This is a perfect case of artist like you were saying that you enjoyed a little less acid rap a little less because
acid rap a little less, yeah.
I can't listen to Mixtape About Nothing now because Wale is so annoying. Because now it's like his flow is like pretty much the same as it was back then. So I can't I just hear his annoying personality coming through on his old songs I used to like. And I notice annoying things about them that I didn't notice then. Because he's always been whiny. Like if you look back at the titles of his old mixtapes, like one of his first mixtapes was Hate Is the New Love, Need for Attention. Like he's like a fucking toddler. Like
no, seriously. I mean, at this point, you could just start calling him Whale.
That is right. He just went. And fucking, he named his last album after a joke on the Joe Budden podcast. Apparently, that's what
his last album I listened to, and it was incredibly boring. It was incredibly boring.
I got a song off of it when I was in the hospital, and I don't remember a thing about it.
That's the thing. I listened to it like maybe a week or two ago, and I don't remember anything about it. I remember the song with Megan Thee Stallion because the hook was so terrible. She was good on it, but the Wale's hook is horrible. the song with Meek and Ross, they're, they do Meek and Ross things, and Wale's like whatever on it. Like, and the thing about like production's like fine on it, whatever. It's like it's nothing. There's some good beats on there, but he doesn't do anything for me. And the album was just like a pretty generic like R&B album. Like it's just I, it was just like it's an album that I heard through osmosis a bunch of times on like those like the big mainstream like R&B Spotify playlists that I occasionally sift through and listen to just to see like what's hot. Like
now he's making algorithm.
Right, it's like algorithm music, and then that's really what it is. So, I mean, it's better than like Shine, but I mean, that doesn't say that much. Yeah, Wale, man, I don't know. Never been a big fan, but he definitely fell off.
All right, who do you have?
I mean, we might as well talk about Eminem because I feel like he's the most popular example of this.
He is. The problem with that is, I mean, that's probably the artist most likely to get this downvoted that we mentioned him because his fans will insist that everything he does is just more genius than the last. And it's annoying to have somebody, how do I put this, come out with some shit that's not brilliant and then explain to you that you don't get it. And I feel like that's a lot of, like, Eminem comes out with some really low effort shit, but he does it in a way that makes it sound like he's operating at a high level. And then, this is making sense.
No, I because it can sound like he's technically he's always a proficient rapper. I feel like that's kind of gone away.
Except for like the one period, like Encore or whatever, where he was just completely faffing off.
Right.
Like he's always technically like good, like, and like he does all sorts of tricks and like things that are, I guess, clever on the surface.
Right. So it can be easy to quote unquote trick people and things like that. Like that makes sense to me because people are like, oh, he's still like rapping, the hooks are terrible, but like even people that like, will think his newer stuff is like okay. They're like, well, the hooks are terrible, but Eminem's still rapping on it, and it's like
the thing is, the hooks are terrible, the beats are terrible, and
right.
what he's rapping about is either irrelevant or actively annoying. So there's nothing to like there. But even if you actually like the rapping, still, it's like that's a good 2/3 of the song that's just actively bad.
Exactly.
The thing is, the new album actually is an incremental improvement on the last one, which was an incremental improvement on Revival, which was probably the worst thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
So it's
like I said in when Revival came out in a review that was unfortunately unpublished. Shout out to, like I said, people really unironically listening to Eminem albums to own the libs. Eminem albums were Own the Libs albums at one point, and the Revival was peak Own the Libs music. So if you like Revival, hey, you like Own the Libs music.
Well, the thing was, Revival was trying to also be like a fuck Trump album too.
Right, well, that's what I mean. It's trying to be like that, but a lot of the base for Revival is, there's an overlap.
No, that is true, and he struggled with that and failed miserably to write. I mean, that's how he had the awful hot coffee pot freestyle.
Oh God. Yeah.
We love our military, but we fucking hate Trump. Like, oh man, that was powerful.
That was powerful.
Style was like if John Cena ate cannabis.
John Cena on the hook of Framed. John Cena Framed. Oh, Eminem got great value Imagine Dragons on Revival. He had X Ambassadors on his.
That song is so bad.
And really, the fall off for Eminem, we can go back to Encore because Encore is fucking horrific.
Argue there was an artistic recovery, no pun intended. I wouldn't really. I mean, I like Relapse more than most, but Recovery was like a big commercial success. He was back. He got sober. He was he
Recovery.
rediscovered. He was technically rapping well again.
Recovery had to be one of the bigger commercial successes of the 2010s. I think. I mean, I'm that's a guess, but
The thing is, like, what big thing? Like, love the
the
way you
amount
lie.
of hits.
Actually, which, in spite of having like some horrible lines on it, I actually think is not a bad. Probably his last not horrible pop song. Well, The Monster isn't horrible, I guess, but these are not horrible songs because of Rihanna.
Which song? The song the Love the Way You Lie song.
Yeah, that's not horrible because of Rihanna. Like Rihanna's hook on that is amazing.
Yeah,
But
Rihanna's hook. I mean, window
yeah,
pane.
the
Like
window
what?
game line. God damn, why? Like, in what world is that okay?
I was
Like, in what
gonna
world
say.
are you a writer? Like, you're such a writer that you record yourself, like, you, like, fucking film yourself writing in a lot of your videos. Like, that in the Stand video or whatever, he's, like, so seriously writing and shit. Like, he clearly, like, sees himself as this, like, really intense, like, got my pen and my pad. And then it's like, you put that down and you're like, that's what you end your verse on? Like, that's your big, that's your zinger? Like, you're happy with that?
I will say one of my least favorite Eminem songs, just for how, just by sheer osmosis and it being drilled into my skull for years. It's probably Not Afraid. Not Afraid off Recovery is it's not, on the surface not an incredibly offensive song, but the amount of times you hear it and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So okay, it's better than Rap God. It's better than fucking, some shit on a lot of shit on Revival, sure. But just the amount of times that I've had to have it drilled into my skull, and it's just the most dull bullshit imaginable. It's lifeless.
That
So
hook, like, supposed to be inspirational, but it's just like droning and it's repetitive and not. I can't stand that song. I find it to be, you're right, completely lifeless, but it's supposed to be rousing, and it's not.
right, it's just like it's supposed to be like, especially when the bridge comes in and then like it swells back into that final hook. Like they're really trying to like get you on your feet with that one, and you're just like, this is not it.
It's lazy songwriting. It's like Diane Warren rap. It's like some shit for like Celine Dion or something, but it's like transposed into a fucking rap song with like, yeah, that was really where I would say the artistic, like, current fault. Well, it's like it's multi-part with him. It's like those songs, the pop songs are really bad, but the rapidy rap songs are just as bad, are just as annoying for different reasons. Like, because there's no content to them. He's just like rub it, like, it's all showing off multi-syllable fucking lyrical miracle dexterity shit with nothing behind it, just over it, like, sometimes for 5 minutes at a time. And it irritates me that people think this is like the highest form of rapping, and it's like, no, there's nothing behind this. It's hollow.
Right.
And the jokes, the goddamn dad jokes.
Oh God. The one about I mean the amount of dad jokes on Revival is insane. I think Mike Seatown put it as like it's like listening to your dad, like it's like a dad that has like really high waisted pants and like tucks his shirt into them, like, and he's making those jokes like, haha, got him, I got you. Like it's one of those.
Got your nose.
Gosh. It is. It's like that really
Uncle
annoying.
Marshall. That's just wacky Uncle Marshall.
Hey, that's just Uncle Marshall, man. He's wacky. He's crazy. Yeah. So I don't think Eminem quote unquote recovered with Recovery or Marshall Mathers LP. I mean they were better than like Revival and stuff, but they were still, to me, they still were lacking in
Yeah,
good.
I feel like you could really say the big fall off was Encore, and he never recovered from that. I would say that, yeah, I find it hard to argue with that. Like, Relapse is more of just like a kind of take, like, it's an aberration. Like,
Yeah, I don't hate Relapse, but I'm not like this is like it's not for me.
It's very lukewarm as a comeback, I have to say. Like, and I can see why it didn't stick, but you can't argue that it's worse than anything he's done since.
Oh no, indisputably better than the stuff that came afterwards. Absolutely. Even Marshall Mathers LP2, which I don't think people cape as some underrated thing, but no, it's not good. It's not good. It has a
That,
couple. It has a couple of ideas on it, but nah, man.
I think it has a lot of ideas, but none of them are good. All of its ideas pretty much boil down to hating women when you listen to it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Also,
very it's like an incel creative. It's like a fucking incel creative writing class, pretty much. Like it's like incel fan fiction about the fucking Marshall Mathers album. What if I was Marshall? And like I found like I don't. It's like fucking what Cannabis did. Cannabis wrote a fucking sequel to that album, and
yeah.
then Eminem made fun of Cannabis, and then he does the same thing like a decade later.
And the thing is that this album had, like I said, horrible hooks, terrible beats. The fucking survival shit, that shit was horrible. And then it ends the album with the song with the Fun guy, the front man from Fun. So that's all you need. That's all. That tells you this album was made in 2013. That's all you need to know.
There were a million terrible choices on that album in terms of just like production and hooks and features, just all over the place. He's never been good about that, like since really ever, but like especially since like Dre stopped being the one to pick things for him. I think
Mm-hmm.
since he became control of his own destiny in terms of what he could put on his albums and shit, it's not been good.
No, and the thing about you listen to Slim Shady, you listen to Marshall Mathers. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna act like I listen to those albums ever, but what I do remember from them is, and listen to them in middle school and stuff like that. What I do remember is just the sense of humor was like tangible and real, and it didn't feel like cloying or like he was reaching in a sense. Like there's stuff that you could probably listen to on those albums and find kind of a little corny now, a little cringy now, but at the same time, it was more just authentic and not nowhere near the level of like unbearability. Like you're gonna listen to Eminem albums these days, and you're just gonna be either bored or rolling your eyes. And that's not what his music should be eliciting from people.
It's just you can feel the struggle to remain relevant in everything he puts out.
Yeah.
Like there's no effortless fun to it, and he's not good enough at putting out quote unquote like quality music to be taken seriously. And the darting back and forth, like on the new album, like he has like wacky pants songs right next to like, well, what if I was in the mind of a spree killer in Vegas? Like, and it doesn't work. The tonal shifts don't work, and the
No.
production's always bad. Like he always has this really corny like. I was listening to the fucking most recent Joel Santana album yesterday, and or early this morning, whatever. And I forgot he has one song on there that's like samples like a big corny '80s song, like ballad or whatever, for like a serious track, and he can do that. And it was like he only did it for one song, and it was kind of a throwback that he was doing it because it was like something that Dipset used to do all the time.
Right.
But it's like when Eminem does it, there's like no knowing humor to it, and there's no like it's just like thuddingly obvious and like sounds so much worse than the original thing, and it reminds you of the original song. So it's always lazy too. It's always just like a really lazy loop of like some big old radio hit like that your parents listen to on like a classic rock station or an FM like pop station or something. Like I mean, it started all the way back on Eminem show with "Sing for the Moment," which was at least like I remember when I listened to that at the time, and I thought it was like, well, when does it get to the cool part of Dream On? But it was like it worked for that because it was like kind of a novelty, but then he just kept doing it over and over. And it's the same sort of lazy shit that Puffy used to do, or when he used to produce, if he ever actually used to produce his own shit, which I kind of doubt. But if he did, it was always that really lazy shit where he would just like loop an old song, like just like take like a chunk unaltered of some really memorable old song.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean,
yes, so you have shit like that on the production end, and what he's either spitting complete nonsense or creative writing exercise stuff that's so it's not fun and it's not deep, and there's so much of it all the time, and every time you put something out, you can guarantee that it's at least going to have people who defend it like it's the greatest thing ever, and that he'll put something in there whining that nobody loves him anymore and that nobody appreciates him as an artist, which is always really fun to hear. Like every guy, like somebody puts out some shit that like you can guarantee be whining about how nobody liked their last shit every time.
every time, and that's
Wale does that too, by the way.
no, that is definitely a common thread here. No, I think like Eminem. It's interesting to me. I feel like he could have ended his career after Marshall Mathers LP too, and I would have been like, fine, whatever. Like your last two albums were not good. Like he hadn't made good music since like Eminem Show, really. I mean, depending on what you think of Relapse, but at least I would have been like, it's fine. Yeah, I didn't need three terrible albums to follow that because then it really sinks the legacy. You know, like if your career was just like uneven, like Eminem's career was before Revival, you could at least be like, all right, he's got a couple of good albums. Like I understand the legendary status, all that stuff. But then Revival comes out, and then the next two albums come out, and you're just like, well, you're kind of murdering your legacy here. Like, forget music to be murdered by. It's fucking legacy to be murdered by at this point. So I don't know.
Got him with that one.
Yeah, I pulled an Eminem joke. That was really terrible. And that was a terrible line, and that was an Eminem line right there.
Yeah, that was a joke Marshall will be proud of. And I thought of it the second you said that. I was like, should I make this joke?
Well, I risked my any sense of humor that people think I have right there.
Who do we
Yes.
think old school rapper old school legend rapper that fell off the hardest, and which one has remained the most relevant?
I mean, I think Eminem's definitely the most popular one. I'd have to think of other old school rappers Redman, right? Redman fell off. I think. Anyway, yeah. I don't know if he's popular, but like that Reggie album was terrible.
Has he put out anything since?
He has not put out anything since, so I guess he doesn't have enough releases.
Put out an EP that was fine, but yeah, he's been promising Muddy Waters 2 for years, and that's probably never happening.
Probably not, and maybe that's for the best, honestly. I'm trying to think of
Ghostface falling off, like in a perpetual state of falling off, which is sad to see.
I mean, it is, but it's not like I don't think the music has been bad. It's just been like okay. So I don't think I would qualify that as
It's been like mediocre, like compared to what he was.
Yeah, I mean, like the 12 Reasons to Die stuff was cool.
Yeah, that was really good, but that was also nearly. How recent was that? Because that was really like 12 Reasons to Die. The second one wasn't as good as the first one. The first one was amazing. That was probably the last great album he made.
Yeah, the first one was great. The second one was like decent. After he did that, he did the one with Czarface last year.
Yeah, I listened to that once and it was fine, but it was not exciting.
Yeah, I agree. It was like fine, but not exciting. But I don't think so. I guess he's kind of fallen off. But Ghostface's run to me was so long that I don't, because you could argue that like okay, Ghost Dini wasn't good, but then he picked it up with Apollo Kids, and then he picked it up with 12 Reasons to Die. Like he kind of caught himself. You know what I mean? Like he was tripping, but he didn't fall.
I could see that. Honestly, I think Ghost Dini is a little underrated. I mean, it's like weird and corny, but it's got some amazing songs on it. The first two songs are really good, and Forever is really good. I don't know. But like, I don't think anybody wanted to hear him make that album. But again, he was kind of ahead of his time with just doing really heavy auto-tune R&B stuff.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you and Marshall both kind of say it's underrated, so I might go back and give it a.
I'm not saying it's great. I'm just saying it's rated.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to think of. I mean, well, 50 Cent I think is a good one.
Okay, 50 is.
I think 50
Fell off, but I mean, he fell off in all aspects too. Not like he fell off in rap forever ago, but I think like in terms of being a media presence, he like kind of recovered by doing Power, but now he's like reduced to like feuding with like stars of like reality TV stars.
Right. No, seriously.
And I'm sure he's still probably pretty funny on Instagram and stuff because I don't think he's lost a sense of humor, but he used to be such a big deal. And you have to imagine he can't be doing nearly that well financially.
No. I mean, he's there's no way.
But musically falling off, like I'd argue that he doesn't have a good album after the first one. So
No, I agree. I mean, I love Get Rich or Die Trying still to this day, and I listened to it like a few weeks back. Because it's so fun. It's such a fun album.
I was like a real rap only snob when that dropped because I was just starting to get into it, and I'm a fucking loser. But I Honestly, when Get Rich or Die Trying dropped, I was listening to a lot of Talib Kweli, which is an embarrassing fucking statement to make.
That's about as far from Get Rich or Die Trying as.
I was listening. I think if you ask me what my favorite rappers were when that album came out, I'd probably say Outkast, Talib Kweli, and Nas. And Mos Def.
Not bad. That's definitely not a bad trio of rappers to like. Because didn't God's Son drop that year too?
Yeah. Still Matic dropped the year before, then Godson dropped.
Right. Yeah.
Same period too.
Yeah, and Outkast had dropped Speaker Box Love Below that year, so they were flying high.
That 2004. So that was right, or was that 2003? I don't remember.
It was either,
I lived through it. You didn't really live through it. You were like 5, and I should know the answer to this question.
They dropped it in 2003. It was the same year as Get Rich or Die Trying.
Oh.
Yeah. The first the first Outkast song I heard was Hey Ya, so that didn't really that was my earliest memory
of the podcast, part of the podcast where I feel old as fuck, as usual.
as usual. Well, you know what's funny about Get Rich or Die Trying is the first rap song I ever remember hearing. I might have heard once before, but I don't think so. The first rap song I ever remember hearing was In the Club. And I was like, I think it was like the year after the album came out. I was like 6, and I heard In the Club. And I only heard it because, what's funny is my mom, I've told the story before, my mom had a CD, a compilation from like, this is back when the Grammys used to have like compilations of like the hottest songs of the year, like they were up for awards or whatever, and like Crazy in Love was on it, and like Hey Ya might have been on it, and there was like some big Coldplay songs from that year were on it, and just like whatever, an amalgamation of genres. And 50 Cent In the Club was on it, and I just remember the beat, just the instantly like iconic beat coming in, because my mom just would put it on in the car sometimes, and the song before it, I forget which one it was, but she loved the song, and it would just roll into In the Club, and I would just hear the beat. I was like, what is this? And that was kind of like my first like memory of like, hey, I want to get into this like rap stuff because this is pretty cool. So just for that alone, Get Rich or Die Trying is like always going to be an album that I fuck with.
I mean, you can really trace that album the fall off of a lot of people musically. 50, Dre, Eminem, anybody, and if you consider anybody, well, Lloyd Banks made a come. Actually, no, that's unfair because Lloyd Banks and Tony Yayo both made kind of artistic comebacks later, like on the really low key.
True, but they were ones that like people didn't really care about for the majority of, like the majority of people. If you weren't checking for Lloyd Banks mixtapes.
Yeah, 3 who would pay to see Lloyd Banks in a club show up at 3:30 in the morning and lip sync to On Fire and what was his other? Oh, I'm So Fly.
Yeah.
In 20 minutes, bodyguards have rapped for 6 hours doing freestyles, passing a blunt on stage. So there's like 300 people who would care about like Lloyd Banks' artistic recovery, but his like recent were not bad.
No,
and again,
I remember
low scale case of like falling off and recovering because he was not really that relevant an artist to begin with, and his recovery was not really that dramatic. So,
I mean, if I'm 50, I don't know how you go from, like What Up Gangsta, Patiently Waiting, Many Men, In the Club, like High All the Time, like the If I Can't, like 21 Questions, all those songs, Wanksta, and then you get like Massacre, and it's just like, what happened? You know what I mean? Like, you get Candy Shop as like your hot single. Like, come on. Like every song on Get Rich or Die Trying could have been a hot single. And then you get to Massacre, and most of them were just like cheap pastiches of like what was going on in rap in 2005.
The Massacre is one of the laziest rap albums I've ever heard in my life. And the funny thing about it, and I almost think he made it lazy on purpose, because when he was getting dissed by everybody, like, there's the line on Checkmate by Jada where he's like, "You ain't got shot again, so what's your second album about? Nothing. A bunch of girl songs, 100% pure garbage, just something to break up buds on." And that's so he made an album that was a bunch of girl songs because he didn't get shot again. And one song about how he got shot the last time.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I'm going to make something lazy as fuck. It's going to outsell all of you. And it did. So he had I guess he saw no reason to ever artistically evolve beyond that. And then Curtis was even worse than Massacre.
Oh, Curtis is fucking horrendous. Massacre, at least you could pick out, some songs in there. But Curtis, I mean, Jesus Christ.
And the singles off of it are funny bad. Like Amusement Park. Amusement Park.
Oh, God.
All right, so I heard that, before it was a candy shop, and that's kind of small. So now I'm going to compare my dick to an amusement park. Because that's big. And it's got like rides and shit. My dick's like a ride.
That fucking, I will just say also that fucking Animal Ambition.
Oh, yeah, the Animal album. Where 50
when he's making animal noises on the Animal Ambition. What the fuck you doing?
Also, I actually don't hate AO Technology, but it's it's objectively a bad song.
Is that the most?
Why is Justin Timberlake is he whining about not wanting to like jerk off to porn anymore or have cyber sex? Like, I don't understand the song. Or like I don't look at least.
Like in movies, like in the 90s, like the late 90s, it would be like cyber action, like Hackers Bro type movies. AO Technology is like that, and some like Kanye stuff around that time, and some other stuff too, where it was like sex but technology. It was kind of like that late 2000s pop rap era where it was just like, yo, what if we used our iPhone 1s for sex? Like, it was just that kind of concept. Like, Kanye was definitely on that at the time. Fucking alien sex. Like, there's probably some stuff that, like, we'll get to this other artist too. Like, Eminem definitely was probably on that. Like, I don't know. There had to be a bunch of like pop rap around that time. It was just like, yo.
Eminem logically inclined enough to be on that, because I remember when Kamikaze dropped or whatever, and he like had the lines dissing Tyler and Earl. Earl made some comment about, well, we can see who just started using the internet last year, because the whole indication that like Eminem finally discovered what the internet was and that he was getting bad reviews on it, and what Twitter was.
Eminem's like, what is this? What is? I'm still on MySpace. Eminem was still dropping music on LimeWire.
Eminem checking requests.
Eminem calling into radio stations. Why aren't you playing my shit? That reminds me of like the Timbaland Shock Value 2 album that came out around that era. That late 2000s era of produced some really terrible pop rap, let me tell you. We had B.O.B. Adventures of Bobby Ray coming out around that time. We had T.I. No Mercy coming out around that time. T.I. is a good one for this.
Yeah, T.I. is. We could get to T.I. I was going to actually suggest Dre after 50 because
yeah.
it seemed like a logical.
Because I think
too.
I also think that a lot of people overrate Compton. Well, Compton's okay.
Nah, I listened to it once, and I really liked the Game verse. I really like the Kendrick verses. That's really about it. Dre still raps like everybody who gave him his reference track. He doesn't even bother to sound like himself. I liked the Eminem verse enough until Hector San Mateo pointed out to me he has a line on there where he says, "I even make the bitches, the pregnant bitches I rape come." Or the bitches I rape come. Either way, he had to have a rape line in there, and it might have been a raping pregnant women line. Either way, it's just like thank you for that.
Thanks, Marshall. Appreciate it.
And it's really long. Oh yeah, the Anderson .Paak stuff is good too, but it's like anything that's good about it has nothing to do with Dre. Dre as an artist really ceased to exist around like fucking Get Rich or Die Trying. Like he hasn't really produced any. If the last thing he would have produced that would have been of anything that seemed distinctly him would have been Doctor's Advocate, but he didn't produce that. It was Game getting stuff together that sounded like him. Because the stuff he actually produced for Doctor's Advocate that leaked wasn't very good. If Doctor's Advocate came out like it was supposed to have come out, it wouldn't have been as good as it actually ended up being, which is kind of weird. Because if it would have been a different album if it was the one Game originally intended it to be, because it wouldn't have been a breakup album that was trying to sound like Dre with Game yelling about Dre the whole time. So, Compton bores the shit out of me, to be honest with you. Like, I don't really care about Dre's life struggle. Dre's objectively kind of a terrible person. Yeah. He beat the shit out of him. He funds Burning Man, or he got paid off Burning Man. He steals from artists, I'm pretty sure. His stupid headphones suck. He paid to get his kid into a college, that sort of shit. Like, I don't know. Dre sucks. I don't like Dre. I mean, he's a legendary producer. He's made some great music, but Dre in 2020, like, I couldn't care less what he does.
Exactly. You put it perfectly. He just sucks.
I think he's run out of things to say musically and hasn't had anything to say musically for like 15 years.
I agree. And I think Dre's best moments in the 2010s were on other people's albums when they wrote his shit for him, like on the Kendrick on Good Kid, Mad City when Kendrick when it's like, hey, Kendrick.
Also, those original singles for Detox were embarrassing. I Need a Doctor.
Oh god, like I said, that era of fucking pop rap, man. That like the fucking Skylar Grey hooks and everything, man. Like just some of the worst, most dour shit.
Just absolutely joyless music. It does not feel like it was ever touched by human hands. Just fucking garbage.
It's terrible.
And so I also think Dre had a really terrible feature on one of the most recent Anderson .Paak albums. I want to say, was it not the most recent one, but the one before, the one after?
The Oxnard one.
Was it not Ventura? Was it Ventura? I'm gonna have to look this up now.
I haven't listened to Oxnard in forever, so if it
would the Pac albums really, except for I still listen to Yes Lord sometimes. Yes Lord. I don't know how you pronounce that. It sounds so white right now. But
I listened to.
It was Oxnard.
Yeah, it was Oxnard. Yeah, I figured.
And Oxnard is the one that has also a terrible J. Cole feature on it, I believe. I thought it. Yeah, J. Cole feature. The Dre, those are really bad. Otherwise, it's a pretty good album. Those two features are really bad.
Yep. And then someone should have wrote Dre's part. Seriously.
So I have, Dre, I mean, as a rapper, he never really had anything to say of his own anyway. Like, everything was always written for him forever. And as a producer, I don't think he's had anything to say for a good long time. And you could look at the production credits and see who was co-producing his shit, and maybe make an argument that it was like always his engineers or Mark Batson or somebody else who was responsible for anything post Doggy Style. But I'm not that well versed, so I don't want to make that accusation. I mean, I used to really like Dre when I first started getting into rap. I listened to 2001 a lot, but a lot of it just I don't revisit it a lot, and I have no reverence for him really. I can admit he's influential. I can admit he's made some classics, but it's not something I listen to all that often, and I really think he's run out of shit to say. And I've run out of shit to say about him.
No, I agree 100%. I could not agree more. I think that it's crazy that like I'll still ride for the Chronic, of course, but I like Dre's career in general. Like, just fell off majorly. Just lost a lot of steam after I think he did just stopped finding things to inspire him, and then when he did, music wasn't there. I'm happy he scrapped Detox. I'm glad it never existed.
It would have been by any indication, it would have been really bad if it did.
It would have been bad. I think this is a good time. I mean, my next pick was T.I. So, because I think T.I.'s career is interesting.
It is. I'm trying to, he definitely is another person who sold out a lot for pop reasons. I feel like he did make some artistic recovery with that Us or Else project. I thought was one of the better things he's ever done.
Yeah, and his 2018 album was pretty solid.
I think that's the one I mentioned. Yeah, no, that was 26. Oh, Dime Trap. I don't think
that was pretty solid. The Us or Else stuff was good too. Yeah, so I mean, like he's when he's inspired, he can put out great music. I mean, obviously, trap music and King, those are classics. But and I think specifically, I think people might overlook like how fucking good his rapping is, like on that 3-album run from Trap Music or Urban Legend and King. Like the way like his rapping and his energy, like T.I. really was on top for a reason.
He was incredibly commanding, technically great, super charismatic. Like if you put him on a song, he was going to steal that song. He was going to be the thing people remembered about the song. I remember at the time, you were probably still in diapers. Rubber Band Man was huge, like everywhere, and I think that was off Trap Music.
Yeah, that was Trap Music. I mean, the first T.I. song I really remember was What You Know.
That was also huge.
And that was King. I mean, King, which I was listening to it a few weeks back. There were a couple of days in a row where I would spin it and because the Nodima review is really great, and he's talking about how like it's incredible to go back to it because it felt contemporary at the time, but it sounds relevant now. Both of those T.I. albums, and I think that's true. Like songs like What You Know, I'm Talking to You, with that fucking monstrous Just Blaze beat. Like he just picked great beat. The Manny Fresh song, Top Back is one of my favorite.
Oh yeah, the way that builds up before, and then the way it drops in is absolutely insane.
The horns on that shit, like, oh my, yeah, that's one of my favorite Manny Fresh beats. In general, like you could have like at least half that album, and it would be like some of the best beats of that era. The song with BG and Jeezy's great. It's T.I. made like longer albums, but they were so consistent, and it was really like his energy level and his rapping that made that to be the case. So, but then he, like you said, got kind of conceptual with stuff like Paper Trail or T.I. versus T.I.P. or whatever. And you're just like, this is mediocre.
Well, his ear for production got worse. He definitely took it in a poppier direction with Paper Trail, and those songs were everywhere. But whatever you like an objectively terrible song, Dead and Gone is not like I like it without like I feel bad for liking pretty much any Justin Timberlake hooked rap song except for if you count Suit and Tie, which you shouldn't because it's an R&B song with a rap feature, not the other way around. So, but yeah. Pretty much anytime Justin Timberlake guests on a rap song, it just feels so goofy to me and forced. and if I like it, I feel bad about liking it because it just feels so just unnatural and I don't know, gimmicky. Like I think the biggest case of that is Holy Grail, which I know is a bad song and I should be mocked for liking it, and but I can't help myself.
I don't, it's funny. I don't dislike that song either. I think
But like the Nirvana thing, like
oh
why
yeah,
would
it's corny. It's definitely corny, but I don't dislike it. Same thing with Dead and Gone. Dead and Gone is like a very. There were so many songs.
it's
Like
so
I said,
melodramatic though, and it's so melodramatic, and it's very
uh,
different than anything he'd ever done. Like a lot of stuff on Paper Trail is like that, but and Swagger Like Us is lazy. Like I don't hate it, but it's not as good as it thinks it is. It's not as like it doesn't earn its like presence of being like the first major whatever like all-star posse cut or whatever it claims to be, which it is not. But it I feel like that's kind of been like revisionist history, the first modern all-star posse cut, because then they did Forever, and then
right.
but really just like an A-list version of what Khaled was doing, which is really just like what remixes have been for all eternity. Is like if you get some famous people on a remix, so it's not that huge of a deal.
No, for sure. And to your point about the hooks, like a lot of the hooks on this album on Paper Trail, and really of this time period, like in pop rap, were these like big dramatic like swells and crescendos and whatever. Um, I think that like Dead and Gone and even Live Your Life was a massive song. Oh my God, Live Your Life was everywhere. Um, I would still hear that like in stores and places
That's
like that. Like,
also an objectively
there's
terrible song. I also really don't like that song.
you don't like the
And they're back on top. They're back to back with each other on the album too, which is just like, ugh. I mean, I do like some stuff. I mean, I like the first four tracks on the album. I
yeah.
like
I,
Swing
I don't hate the album. I just think it's like boring to me.
Yeah, and I feel like it signals the fall off period. Well, Ti versus Tip kind of signaled the fall off period.
Mhm.
So I don't think anybody cared about the concept. Some of the beats on it were pretty terrible. There's an Eminem song on there that's just not fucking good, for a lot of reasons. And
I
holy
do.
crap, holy shit, it was 80 minutes long. That probably explains a lot. Like
Yeah,
it's
because every song was like 4.5, 5 minutes. Yeah, but Paper Trail. Yeah, Ti versus Tip and Paper Trail were definitely like Ti was trying, but it just the results weren't good. I mean, No Mercy is just like him not trying and him fucking going full Alex the Kid.
I feel like I'm looking at Ti versus Tip right now, and I actually another guilty. I hate the term guilty pleasure, but there are certain songs where I'm like, this is not good, but I do like it. So I guess I don't want to listen to say I feel guilty about it, but I can objectively realize when something's not good and I still like it regardless. And I will say that for Big Things Poppin', because Big Things Poppin' is stupid,
It is.
but Big Shit Poppin' and Little Shit Stoppin'.
Another Manny Fresh.
I mean, it's probably just because of the Manny Fresh beat, but
Yeah, I mean, like Ti versus Tip, like Just Blaze.
No, go ahead.
Just Blaze had a couple songs on that, a couple heaters on that one, I think. Um, it definitely it wasn't bad. I completely forgot about the song. I mean, I haven't heard this album in forever. I forgot Eminem was on this album.
The Eminem song is horrible. That's the one thing I did remember was the Eminem song. It's one of those like really minor key beats that he would do around like the only type of beat he knows how to make, like Renegade but worse.
Ooh, ouch.
And he might have been like melodic flowing in the same key of the beat, which is always like Till I Collapse but worse.
Mm-hmm.
So he was doing a lot of that during that period.
Lot of great value Eminem music. Eminem beats have not aged well. Like I said, outside of Renegade and the beats he did on Get Rich or Die Trying, Eminem beats not good. And he should
Mind
not.
the Cross. Nas the Cross. I don't mind that one.
Oh yeah, I haven't. I was just naming Eminem beats I could think of.
Well, I mean, yeah, one of the few that I would say hasn't aged terribly.
Yeah.
But Yeah, as far as T.I. goes, I would say that he definitely still has the potential to make a great album, or a huge song, because he's talent, like rap wise, still as good as ever. If you hear him on a recent feature, there's a good chance he'll still do really well with it. He just kind of puts out. I don't know. I listened to the most recent one. I don't really remember it, but I don't remember it being terrible. I thought Us or Else was really good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he did kind of fall off, but I think it was more of a stumble than a total fall off in his case.
Right,
Although
because I think only
years, and it did involve like a change in his sound, and it also involved like I think he just has a weakness for shitty pop songs because he likes to get paid, and he like sees himself as kind of a mainstream celebrity because he always does like the reality show shit. So, and that's how you end up with things like him being on Blurred Lines, which is probably the worst thing he's ever done.
Oh yeah, that you know what? I totally forgot. I knew that obviously I remember that song, but I was thinking either that song or the song he did with Iggy.
Ooh, yeah, but Blurred Lines was like massive beyond massive. Blurred Lines was like culturally massive, whereas I think the only Iggy Azalea. I mean, he is responsible for Iggy Azalea too. That also can't be
Yeah,
forgiven.
at least partially. Yeah, no, that's true. Blurred Lines, that was oh my god.
Iggy Azalea and he's responsible for both of them.
Yeesh.
Not a great track record. And he passed on he screwed up Meek Mill's career because originally Meek Mill was signed to his label, I think. But
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, Blurred Lines, yeah, that song is really, really, really terrible.
And the time that it dropped, I was bartending a lot of weddings, and I had to hear it all the fucking time. And it's like, oh, cool. This is like the number one social gathering for people getting overly intoxicated in front of each other, and the number one song to hear at it is an anthem for date rape.
It's not good.
That's really, really very cool.
That might be. I mean, first of all, it's one of the biggest songs of the 2010s, which I didn't even remember until recently. Real great thing to be huge.
You know, between that and that Happy song, Pharrell definitely made a lot of money in the 2010s.
Yes, Pharrell was doing just fine. Happy was also fucking everywhere. That's a one that you.
I don't want to hear it again in my life.
I never need to hear it again.
So I guess my counter for the T.I. fall off would be his. I think they had beef for a while. Rival Young Jeezy, or just Jeezy. He doesn't call himself Young anymore. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Who has not put out anything of relevance or quality in a long ass time. I'm pretty sure. The last thing of his I remember being great was the Trap or Die 2 mixtape. The last thing of his I remember being good was. I gotta do his page now.
Yeah, I'm looking. He hasn't. I'm trying to think of the last thing that was like. Well, probably the. Is it the? It's right. It's the world. It's the world tape. That was pretty good. That was 2012. What came after 2012? Seen It All was all right.
Seen It All was all right. Yeah.
Apparently, I haven't listened to.
The new one is not very much. I'll say that much.
The TM 104.
No, there's one past that he just put out this year, which is just
one that he dropped just for the quarantine. Yeah.
And it feels just it's like one of those not really an albums. I don't know why. It's like 17 minutes long, and there's really nothing to it. And everything, and that's just kind of the story. I feel like everything he's put out has been pretty low effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he hasn't really changed his approach since Thug Motivation 101, and it's just been diminishing returns ever since. Like, occasionally he'll step out of it and come up with like a bigger concept sometimes, but he normally abandons it and just does the same old shit and sounds more and more tired each time he does it. And, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I lost a lot of personal faith in Jeezy with the whole Freddie Gibbs situation, which is, I feel like, kind of exposed him to me. Don't maybe expose you to those that don't know you. As Gibbs said, because he never responded to it. It really exposed his whole persona as being a front, and he didn't seem as artistically inspired afterwards. Honestly, I can't think of anything he's really done since then that showed that he had any kind of fire to it, except for I think "Seen It All" with Jay, and Jay is the reason that song is great. He's good on it. It's the last verse of his I could really point to as being great in any way, but that's the reason I remember that song is because of Jay-Z and the beat first and second.
No, I agree with that. I don't think that I'm trying to think of other Jeezy things that I really remember, honestly, and I'm struggling to think. I mean, he just didn't. It just wasn't the same, and that might just be fatigue on his part. Artists kind of fall off with creatively, because what else are you going to talk about at this stage in your career? It's different from the Thug Motivation days where there's an obvious come up. He doesn't need that anymore. So
yeah, there's no in what he's saying. So he's either rehashing old stories or sometimes he comes up with a little idea. I remember the recession. He was kind of talking about the recession. Yeah. Interesting. But then he came up with that one song, "I Do," or whatever, where he was a whole long marriage metaphor, and that was a bad song. That was a bad song with Andre 3000 and Jay-Z on it. Jay-Z's the worst part of that song, but it is not a good song. And it's maybe Jay-Z shouldn't try and get that creative with it. But I think that album also has a song with Jill Scott on it that's really... Yeah, that album actually has two of his best songs on it, and the rest of it I don't really remember. It has a song with T.I. and a song with Jill Scott back to back, and they're amazing. And then the rest of it is not very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember. I remember liking the recession. TM 103 is really good. Yeah, and then I think after that, there's definitely a drop. I don't know. I think this is a pretty simple case of what more do I rap about?
Exactly, and he got it so perfect right out the gate that you're never going to get that combination of production, hunger, just all. It was a perfect storm, and he wasn't able to evolve and go past trying to replicate that. And there were a few stray attempts at that proved that was beyond his ability to do so. And yeah, I don't think he's going to put out anything interesting again, really. Maybe a decent feature here and there. He's always got that cool voice, but he's not an exciting artist and hasn't been for a while.
No, I think that sums it up perfectly. I was thinking about Rick Ross for this topic because his career is just all over the place.
Well, I'd say he's an argument for recovery, possibly. Rappers never retire. I think he was arguing he was going to retire on this last one. It actually would be a note to retire on because it's a full circle sort of thing, a sequel to his first movie, as it were. And he's doing everything he always did, but he's refined it to its highest point. I don't think there's a bad song on there. I think he touches on pretty much every aspect of his persona and his career in a really even he even has some consciousness tracks that work better than anything he's done in that lane in the past, some personal stuff about his own health, and I really, really like that album. I like it more every time I listen to it, which is rare for a Rick Ross album that I'm listening to it more than once, let alone liking it more the more I listen to it. Probably the first one since Teflon Don that I have a lot of replay to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely feels like I think and even though it says Port of Miami too, to me it feels like a Deeper Than Rap or Teflon Don too. It kind of seems like that sort of vibe because Port of Miami was a lot different.
Yeah, no, it was more basic coke rap. This is definitely something like Vegas Residency or the Maybach Music track. I would say the one disappointment on this is we didn't get to hear Pusha T diss Lil Wayne on a track that also has Lil Wayne on it. He wasn't able to quite speak that.
Vegas Residency is so fucking good.
Vegas Residency, that's a top 5 Rick Ross song. I've come to really, really like the Drake song at the end.
Yep.
Did not like it. Thought it was way too slow, but it grew on me like crazy.
That instrumental, like they could say anything over that, and I would love that song because I love that instrumental so much.
And it's perfect closing credits music too. The way it plays the album out, and it's one of those Drake hooks that's like really calls back to like the "I'm On One" style Drake hooks, of which are like probably my favorite era doing that. So
it sounds like
which is like a really forgotten track between Ross and Drake. It kind of reminded me of that song too, because they were supposed to do a collaborative album. I'm sure that was just bullshit talking. And I think "Free Spirit" was like the first single off of that, and then nothing ever came of it.
No, you're right, and that's actually a great point about the hook. I never even made the connection. That sounds like a hook from like 2011 or 2012, like that kind of era of Drake. That's interesting that you bring that up because I just had never even thought about it until 30 seconds ago when you said that. That's cool, and I think it's probably one of the more inspired Drake verses in the last couple of years for sure. And Ross is great. Ross is so good that they give him a really long second verse and he comes back for the third verse and you're like, oh cool, he's still rapping. All right.
Yeah, generally his rapping is just really front to back good. There are very, very few jarring missteps on the album. Like even like the pop song on it, you can't really argue it's like a pop song because it's about like sniffing coke. So, I mean,
yeah.
But it's like you're not going to hear it on a top 40 station. I'm pretty sure. There's no like edit you can do with that. So, the Nipsey song is great. I don't know. I just feel like Ross did have a down period where he was kind of like Jeezy in that he was just trying to recreate his old successes over and over. But I think that his catalog is a lot deeper than Jeezy's.
Yeah.
He has anything like people are going to remember him more than most just for the Devil in a New Dress verse. Like he managed to have an AZ Life's a Bitch moment while having an actual rap career around it.
True. Yeah. I wouldn't have thought that Rick. Yeah, because he still has. I mean, the Rich Forever mixtape is good. Like Jeezy, he has a couple of solid mixtapes, and then his albums. I don't think Teflon Don's as good as Thug Motivation 101. Not quite. It's still
out. I think none of his albums are as good as Thug Motivation 101. Port of Miami 2 is close.
Yeah.
Really, he only has 2 albums that are that good and like Deeper Than Rap and Teflon.
I would say Deeper Than Rap is pretty good still.
Deeper Than Rap is good, but it's a little long, and it also has that song about blowjobs called Face. And I really thought Face was not going to catch on as slang, and it did, and I'm really fucking disappointed.
I think he's got albums that have incredible tracks, but don't flesh out into the full album. Like I think the Rather You Than Me like hinted at what Port of Miami 2 would be, because the beats were so like opulent on that, but there were just some really lame songs on there too. Some great songs, but some lame songs. Mastermind obviously is Sanctified. The Devil Is a Lie. Like
really, really one of my. It's a personally very annoying album to me because it felt like he sat down and was like, I'm going to make a masterpiece and proceeded to rip off everyone else's fucking masterpiece in rap for like the past 25 years just as lazily as possible. And then some people are like, dude, a masterpiece. He's actually been this all along. It's like, he's literally literally verbatim stealing shit and congratulating himself for it, like over and over. Like the beats are even recycled from like famous loops and stuff. It's really, but like Sanctified is the one moment on that album that I love.
Yeah. I mean, I probably like it more than you, but I'm frustrated with it too. In the fact, I think it has like career highs and career lows on the same album. Like I think Sanctified, like I really like Drug Dealer's Dream and Rich's Gangsta, and the ending run of tracks, really the little like bonus ones, those were good. And like I said, the Devil Is a Lie one was good, but there's just
Devil on there.
Yeah, Devil Is a Lie.
Lie is also a really, really good song. But again, I mainly like that more for Jay than Ross on that. But,
right. No,
I don't know. I
that's
feel
fair.
like I don't need to argue if he's going to make a class. Like, I think he made the best album he could possibly make with Port of Miami too. And I don't know where he really goes from there though. Like, because I feel like there's a definite ceiling to what he can do. Like Rick Ross is not going to put out like an 808s and Heartbreak. I really hope not, although that would be hilarious.
That would
But
be. I would listen to it. I don't know if I. I don't think I'd like it.
he's never even tried to like sing his own hook. Like, thank
No,
God for that.
he,
But
he knows. Rick Ross knows his lane. He knows how to dominate his lane. I think that's what allowed him to be so relevant for the last, 14 years. Like he's had hits at least, and songs that keep him in the conversation even when the albums aren't good. He'll have like at least one heater in there, and you're like, oh, okay.
I
Rick Ross
feel like
is.
his one Achilles heel is that he can get lazy. If he has a formula that works, he will beat it to death. Like he had, and I forget what came first, but he had BMF, then MC Hammer, then he had like 15 Lex Luger songs. He's done it just like that over and over until it was just like, we fucking get it. We get it. Stop yelling. God damn it. So, and like he's still doing the same yacht rap stuff, but at least it still works. But he very much is somebody who will find a template and just rehash it over and over. He just happens to be better at doing that than Jeezy, because I think he actually cares more about his right. He's a better writer than Jeezy. Jeezy's really not much of a writer. He's more of like a presence, more of like a charismatic speaker, a
Yeah,
rapper.
I think definitely songs off Tough on Dawn and Port of Miami 2 definitely show that writer. Like I said, Vegas residency. Keep going back to that, but that song is just that song could be 20 minutes and I wouldn't get tired of it. Like that's how smooth he is. That's how much the beat and how wonderful the beat is, and just Rick Ross on it. So I mean, the best Rick Ross songs, they're the kind of. I think this is a great compliment for rap songs. Like you want them to just ride out forever.
Yeah.
Those are the best Rick Ross songs to me. Is the ones you wish he would just let ride out forever because you just want to hear it.
No, they're very opulent, layered, lush soundscapes, and he's really good. He's always had that ear for beats, and that's never failed him. It's been just the level of rapping he brings to it, and he's definitely felt like bringing his absolute highest level to Port Miami too. So
Right.
Ross would be, I'd say, somebody who fell off but came back. And even in his falling off period, it was not so much that he lost his ability; he just got complacent, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. He was devoting too much time to Wingstop. I guess I don't know.
All right, so I'm trying to think of anyone else major I'd like to mention. I was going to say Diplo, but that's a hard case to make more successful than ever. But artistically, he's been so goddamn bad for so long now, and I dread seeing his name come up whenever it does, which inevitably, when something popular happens, he will have a remix of it or a take on it, or if there's a regional scene that's about to blow up, he will show up there and gentrify the shit out of it. Like Diplo is fucking capitalism, disgusting.
Yeah, Diplo will hop on whatever wave, and repurpose it for his bank account.
Diplo had 9 beats on the most recent, something like 9 beats on the most recent Madonna album. By the way, speaking of yeah, so
hey, I mean, I don't know how well that album sold or not.
I'm sure the bag was heavy. I'm sure that it.
Oh, I'm sure the check was great because it would have had to be, or else he wouldn't have done it. I'm trying to think myself of artists that.
We could always shit on Logic a little bit, but I don't know what really there is to say about it. I mean, Logic again is another. I feel like Logic is the same sort of case that was with Wale and J. Cole and all these people who are like mixtape rappers that become like annoying, like boring, like relationship concept rappers or whatever, that like basically make pop songs that are about those sorts of boring ass concepts. But in Logic case, he was never as good of a mixtape rapper as those rappers were, or as his fans thought. And he's an even more annoying personality in that lane than either of them, because I don't think either Cole or Wale even Diced Pineapples has anything as embarrassing or fucking toxic annoying as the Suicide Hotline song.
Oh yeah, the Suicide Hotline song.
And
One of the banes of my existence for the last 3 or 4 years. Has to be one of my least favorite songs of the 2010s. A decade that produced many, many terrible songs. That one just very insulting. We both know why. Like it's terrible. And
musical.
And then he had the nerve to make jokes about it afterwards. Like
about how the Suicide Hotline song gets him pussy.
Yes, and he also made jokes about like how it got him like rich and like off of the Confessions of a Dangerous Mind album last year, which was fucking horrendous.
I think where he had a line about saying that he wished he was bipolar.
Yes. He wanted to be like Kanye. He wished he was bipolar.
So he's making money off people's suicidal misery, and he fetishizes mental illness while making the corniest music imaginable, and just fucking nauseating. And he just went from like an inoffensive mixtape rapper that emulated much better rappers to this annoying, ubiquitous personality that he's guaranteed to put out something embarrassing that would shame Macklemore at this point at least once a year. He did it twice last year.
He did it twice. He put out 2 of the worst albums of, two of the worst albums of the year in the same year. I don't even know how you top that.
Yeah, there's nothing good about Logic. Like I said, I think we were talking in the chat about how my nightmare rap group, like the Anti-Triumph, like instead of forming like Voltron, form like, I don't know, Shit Demon from that Kevin Smith movie or whatever, Dogma, and it would be like Joyner Lucas and Logic, and yeah, I think at this point B.O.B. would definitely have to be on there. Yep. But Logic would be a key part of that crew because everything he does just makes him more insufferable. And he is not, I think he did that song with Eminem, speaking of people who fell off, that was amazing in that it was kind of listenable. That's the bar he set for himself. That he didn't embarrass himself necessarily. I don't remember that he embarrassed himself, but I remember he rapped really fast. And he has that same Eminem thing where it's like he can use showy tricks to make his fans argue that he is the best ever and that you just don't get it. Like you don't get you need a very high IQ to appreciate what Logic's doing.
Yeah. You need a certain amount of intelligence points to understand Logic, man.
You need a very high opinion of yourself to think that what Logic's doing is deep. Because he's just spoon-feeding like the same just pandering shit, but he's making you feel like you're smart for doing it, for like accepting it. Maybe that's why he wrote a young adult novel, because I feel like that's a big thing about that is like fake depth to make young adults feel like intellectuals. I don't know. And maybe that's the whole point of the Supermarket album was he was showing off his musical versatility and taste by ripping off much better artists. But there wasn't really that broad of a spectrum of artists he ripped off on there. And he didn't do a very good job. So
no. He does.
Oh man, you have a Phoenix album? That's cool.
That's
fucking Phoenix.
Logic,
maybe next album he can rip off Red of Land Fleet. But
not just like, guys, I'm gonna make an album where I rip off some other big bands around that era. I'm gonna make a Real Estate album. I'm just like some mid like indie rock band. I'm just gonna make that album.
Yeah, if you're over the age of 15 and you like Logic, you should really reevaluate your life choices.
Hey, I think it is what it is. Just put it bluntly. Just put it bluntly. If you,
I would say, no, go ahead.
I was saying, no. If you're like if you're still caping for Logic in the year 2020, then I think it says a lot about you. That's all I'm gonna say.
I would say that putting on Logic at a party is a great way to scare the hoes.
Dude, you're scaring the. Well, I think to end the pod, I wanted to bring up one artist that I know we love a lot. So you could argue that Kanye has fallen off a little.
Damn, you really escalated from where I was going to go. I was going to, well, I guess, yeah, we're on kind of a limited schedule here, unfortunately. So we only had time for one more. I was going to say Big Boy, and you said you could argue.
I agree. Big Boy, still, one of my favorite rappers, but definitely Boomerverse is not it.
And neither was the one before. Neither was the Lil Dragon indie. That was just more like a, we'll let you have this one. You did your little artistic exploration. Now, haha, where's the real album? And then Boomerverse was just like, nah. Wait, can we go back to the exploration shit, please? Like, no, this is fucking horrible.
Boomerverse was very cringeworthy. I was only going to bring up Kanye because even though I still like Ye and I'm like perfectly fine on like Jesus is King, I don't think that they're hitting. I feel like Life of Pablo might be his last like. I think it's like his last classic. It could be. And who knows? Kanye. We never know with Kanye.
I've given up on trying to call Kanye, and I've just kind of decided that I'm going to absorb everything he does.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, take everything he does in public with a grain of salt, several grains of salt.
Sure.
And then second, just take everything he does artistically as another phase, as opposed to something that has like. Since you're taking everything he does with a grain of salt, when he says that he's not going to make any more secular music ever, you should absolutely not believe that. And I feel that this is a phase that I don't know how long it's going to go on for, but fucking Dylan made secular music again eventually.
Right.
And times has Kanye been written as having fallen off in his career, never going to make a classic again. He was never going to do it after 808s. People said Pablo was terrible and that was the end of his run. People said Yeezus was terrible, was the end of his run.
Mm-hmm. And people have come around hard on both of those albums. So.
Exactly. And I feel like Jesus is King is ripe for reevaluation. I'm not so hot on Ye, but I appreciate it more than I did. Although what they did to the revised version when they had to get rid of the sample on the first track is criminal, and that song sucks now. Also, they did a different vocal take for Kanye's verse, and it sounds even worse.
Yeah.
So really, you need to find the original version of that because it guts the song. But people pretty much universally agree Kids See Ghosts is great, even if you hate Kanye's public persona now, and if you don't think that's like the one people generally agree on out of the most recent three as being
Ghost definitely
level.
A high level, and everybody loves his production on Daytona. So
I feel like it's hard to argue that he fell off when just 2 years ago he put out Daytona, Kids See Ghosts, and the Tiana album.
True, so and the Tiana album is going to be criminally underrated for as long as it exists.
Yes, it is. I still come back to that album. There's not a band.
Yeah.
Just as good. I think the quality disparity between those three and the other two is pretty striking. Although I think you can blame Nas for Nasir.
Yeah, I think because Nasir being a kind of like whatever kind of album, I don't think it's Kanye's fault because Kanye still gave you Cop Shot the Kid, he still gave you Bonjour,
I think everything is really good too, honestly.
Yeah.
In spite of that, people misinterpret forever, just the instrumental and everything and the Dream part, because I love when Kanye works with Dream. So.
Absolutely, and you're right. They both killed it. I think like Kanye, maybe not necessarily on his own albums, which I think will still be pretty good. I don't see Kanye ever dropping like a trash album, but who knows? I don't know how long he's gonna make music at this point. We'll see. I wish that he would commit more to. I wish he would pick an idea and stick with it. I know he did that for Jesus is King, but I think Yandhi could have been great if he stuck with it. And I think deciding to scrap that was a bad idea.
I had to introduce this at the very fucking end when I have like 5 minutes left to talk, because I could talk about this for 5 hours. But specific topic, because I don't think I like Jesus King more than most, but I don't think he actually fully committed to the idea in one way or another. Because first of all, at least half of them are just Yandi ideas repurposed, or whole songs just slightly altered,
Right.
and one of them several Yandi sessions. And also, it's a compromise album between what he ended up putting out, between the live session, the live services, and what he ended up putting out on Christmas with Jesus is Born and all that. It's like a compromise, actually. He's not fully going into the gospel lane. He's still putting out something that's closer to Pablo than anything, I would say, in terms of his discography. It's like a rap, it's a pop rap, mainstream pop rap album with heavy gospel Christian influences. Leans on those more than Pablo did, obviously. But if you look at something on Pablo like Ultralight Beam or St. Pablo, I think those are the direct antecedents. I hope I'm using that word correctly, otherwise I sound like a pompous asshole.
No, that's
actually fully to its ideas. I wish he would. I wish he would have fucking waited to put out Jesus is King until Christmas, and you could have also put out Jesus is Born on Christmas too, because all that really was just a recorded session that Mike Dean worked on. And you could have just put them both out and then surprised the shit out of everybody. And it would have probably been a much better rollout for him that would have been better received. But
absolutely.
He doesn't listen to people less successful than him. So what the fuck does he care what I have to say?
Yeah, he doesn't listen to people who haven't written songs about McDonald's supersize.
Fucking put some respect.
Yeah, put some respect.
That was the poem he put for Frank Ocean's magazine, I believe.
Oh yeah, the Blonded magazine. Man. Well, I think overall this is it kind of covered a lot of names that people would agree with us on. I think for the most part.
I don't think there are two very controversial ones here. Kind of kicked a lot of people you would expect us to kick. I didn't get to go I'm sure there are plenty more. We have enough for a part 2 here on this topic. I'm sure with less maybe we could do a hot takes part 2 where people would argue that people might argue with us, because this just seemed to be like people you would expect. It's just more trying to pinpoint when they fell off.
Right. It's more of contextualizing how and why they fell off, I think, which is always, at least for me, it is an interesting thing to talk about, because it's like music is such a fickle thing, I guess.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely more interesting to try and contextualize and analyze why an artist fell off than to just shit on them. Although sometimes it's just funny to shit on them too, and that's why we include J. Cole project in the. But you can be assured though that we will never fall off, because we won't be around here much longer, because we're living off borrowed time. See y'all next time.